What's that sound? It's aliens and they're living in your town. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town.
Good morning, weirdos. How the hell is everybody doing?
Awesome.
Good.
All right, calm down, guys. you guys sound hyped like Denny's over there.
I think it's the heat.
It is, man. We are in full summer.
We are in full summer. Yeah, the date today, if you are listening back home, it is July. Little help, a little
July
help.
10th.
11.
Wow, we are good.
I'm glad you brought that up.
July 10th today.
11.
11?
I have no
July
idea.
11th today. How you guys doing, though? For real. I know that we had a break the last time. We kind of delved into a little bit of our personal lives. People want to know a little bit more behind the people behind the mics on this little podcast. Mr. Beckett, what's going on in your life right now? You're on the hot seat today, by the way.
Oh, shit. I totally forgot about that.
Probably got your checkbook.
Yeah, you're on the hot seat. We're going to get to know you a little
Shit
bit
just
better.
got real.
Yeah, it did.
I was coming all late.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
Really? I thought you had a career. Do you not love your career?
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay. Is that horse community stuff?
I love the horse community. The demographics cool. Most of people are animal lovers in that group. It's a really interesting demographic. You get to meet a lot of interesting people. I think I got kind of over the sales thing. On a sales thing, it becomes a little like high school, becomes a little bit like a popularity contest, less, about your experience and your resume. It's like who you're hanging out with. I mean, more on the residential side, I feel like that's leans a little bit more that way than commercial real estate. So I'm trying to change gears a little bit more, maybe behind the scenes, and help people get into the business. And I'm not a creative person in terms of being able to paint a picture or write a song, but the marketing side, I love building stuff.
I don't know. I think we heard you write a song before on this podcast.
Yeah,
you kind of crushed it.
with no rhythm.
You don't need rhythm for
And
music,
you
right?
told a ghost story.
That's
You scared everyone.
I scared the hell out of Jay with that horn.
The horn.
That was creative.
Vicky, I know that you've had an unfortunate situation in your life with your mother passing. How have you been doing with all that?
Every day it seems to be a little bit better, especially I've been actually getting out of the house. That's
That
made
helps.
a big difference.
I think staying busy when you are dealing with matters of the heart, and it doesn't have to be losing a loved one from death. It could just be kind of getting out of the house and just getting the old brain working and looking at something different. That does help.
And I actually took a point case this week because
Awesome.
I've been on a hiatus from that, and unfortunately it looks like it's a real doozy. But, I'm
So
looking forward to jumping back in.
For everyone who doesn't know what Point is, could you let them know?
Point Paranormal is the paranormal investigation team that I've run since 2007.
And we're part of the team, too. Yeah, I mean, we're grandfathered in.
We are.
And Denny's, how are you doing, sweet love?
Not doing bad. I wish I had more of an update for you guys. But.
Yeah, we know a lot about you. So last week we talked about my friend that was in the gas station or that rest area, and the guy came up behind him and tried to kill him with the knife and all that stuff. I can't tell you how many emails I got about people going into restrooms, going into gas stations, all that kind of stuff, and having similar experiences. Listen to this email from somebody. They said, just to piggyback off your guys' topic from last week, I was a truck driver back in the 90s. There were two guys I know that were arrested for murdering multiple people, and they both had torture chambers in the back of their trucks. Jaybird is right. There's a lot of murdering going on with truck drivers. Signed,
Yes.
Mark from Canada. Now, I don't want all truck drivers to think, we think you're a murderer. My dad was a former truck driver. But it is weird to hear and hear about these stories about how many and how often this happens.
Yeah, because I thought about it on my way here because I happen to be on 95 and I passed like 4 semis in a row and I'm like looking at them
Are they
sideways.
winking at you?
Because I never even thought about, truck drivers possibly being responsible for multiple murders in multiple states.
What about traveling salesmen? That'd be another demo of people you think, because they go to a place, they meet, and then they fly out that night. They could easily kill somebody and bounce.
Well, okay, you for example, Vicky, you love being a psychic. You're into it, so you're obsessed with it. You want to be good at it, so you're gonna read up on stuff. You're gonna practice your craft. Right. Let's say, and you're a smart woman. Let's say you're somebody who has, very high intelligence, and you have a passion for murder. That's what you want to do. you're going to be good at that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be a spectrum of people who murder that are terrible at it, and then people. I think there's serial killers out there that go to the grave without ever being caught, and no one ever knows their dirty secret.
Absolutely.
You know, I had never heard of. I was just reading. I saw it listed on something on Facebook. Have you guys ever heard of the Candyman?
The movie or the real
no,
life?
the real life murderer that was called the Candyman.
Give it to us.
Yeah.
It was a guy. I believe it was in Texas. And
Always is.
yeah, his mother owned like a candy store, so that's a lot of times where he would hook up, and he killed somewhere in the neighborhood of 23 young men. And the reason he got caught is because he got 2 other young men to help him. And finally, they got tired of being part of this because he would lure them into. He had like a car and a van, typical, hey, I got candy in here kind of thing. And it was finally when they were torturing and in the process of murdering another victim, and the people that were helping him just shot him in the head, said, we're not doing this anymore. And they shot him in the head, and then they turned themselves in.
Yeah, this is, I don't know if it's that story, but this seems to be something that some serial killers do. They'll get a couple people they kind of groom and they help. And a lot of times it's younger kids, young teenagers, and they groom them and they help lure victims. And that does happen more than that case.
And they say there were absolutely no leads whatsoever in this case. If they had not come forward and confessed, they probably never would have figured it out.
Rookie mistake.
And the scary thing, too, about that is that's one of about 1 million different stories like that. There's so many killers out there.
Yeah.
There is so many. I saw a special on, what they do is they lure people through Craigslist to come work on their property. They owned property in, Kansas or something where it was a huge amount of acreage, and they'd invite people out. And they said, yeah, we have a place for you to stay. We'll pay for your food. You just come on out. And when people came out, they'd murder them, and they would bury them on their property. And what they were doing was selling. They take their credit cards and stuff and, max them all out and all that fun stuff. So, that was their process. Jeez. And the one guy did the same thing. He recruited, a young boy to help him out with this stuff. And the young boy ended up being his demise. He was trying to get out of the game, even though he was still a criminal and he was still murdering and stuff. He just didn't want to do it with that guy anymore, and he ended up killing him. That's how they caught him as well. Yeah. Same type of thing.
If you look into it, there are, I won't say a lot, but there have been a good amount of teamed serial killers that you're like, how do 2 guys link up and both express that they like murder, and then they go on a spree?
How does that come up in conversation?
How does that come up in conversation? I get, hey man, I smoke weed, you smoke weed. Let's talk about pot. Murder?
Yeah. You're right.
It's crazy.
God, that's so scary.
Beckett, anything to add on to that? Well, what do? You're in a gas station or a rest stop. You're pissing. All of a sudden, this guy with a butcher knife is behind you. Don't move, bitch boy, or that hair's mine. What's your move?
I think I let him take the hair.
No, man. Me and Denny are talking. As soon as something goes down, you start to fight back.
You freak the fuck out.
Yeah, you hiss, you scratch, you don't, you try to get, because they think they're in control. They think they're controlling the situation.
Yeah.
As soon as you throw them off their control, now they have to react to that.
Yeah.
And back in the day, they used to recommend that you just follow directions, that you do whatever but nowadays, no, they say fight back because the chances are you're not making it out alive, so you might as well try.
Shit, that I am not following. You got to get weird. You got to get or whatever on.
So you
got
to run immediately and then hope that you either escape or you get killed running away so you don't get tortured, or you got to ruin the experience for him. If you somehow get back to a torture chamber, you just got to ruin that experience for him.
Yeah.
I think that it's something that it's kind of taboo to talk out loud, and there's kind of different versions of this, but you have these thoughts in your head that are weird thoughts. You're on an airplane or you're going through security, you're like, man, I could totally bring a knife and no one would have even known. Or
you trying to tell us something back here?
Or you think about I thought about when that Flight 93 happened. I'm like, if some guy stood up and started acting a fool and had a box cutter or something like that, would I freeze in that moment? Because there's one thing to talk about what you would actually think you would do, but cliche, you never really know until you're actually in that situation or moment. Or because I think in those moments, if the perfect reaction would be, and I'm curious what you guys think, to use the plane example, everyone just rushes them right away.
Yes.
They don't let any control happen. I don't care what's going on. Because I agree, even in the gas station, I think if you let them have control, your probably situation is going to get worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely
if you
agree.
go into it thinking you're going to die from this no matter what, you might as well go out fighting. Because otherwise you're just submitting to it.
To play devil's advocate, you could say, usually the guy just wants your wallet, and now you're going to make something lethal where he wasn't trying to kidnap you, per se. He wasn't trying to kill you. He was just trying to like get your cash. You know?
Well, like the example I gave you, don't move, bitch boy, I'm gonna cut off your hair. You know where that guy stands at that point. That guy, he's got a knife to you. He's talking about harming you. The threat is there. I say you elbow, you scream, you make so much noise, and I don't roll the dice saying, well, maybe he just wants my wallet.
I'm
Hell
interested
no.
to see where the weirdos fall on this. I wish we could do a poll. We can do polls on like Twitter or something, right? Like it'd be interesting to see like what people think, because I think that could go either way, because he could say don't move, not because he wants to like torture and kill you, but he's like don't move because the next question, he wants your wallet that doesn't even have cash in it. You're just going to give him some plastic that you're going to cancel in 20 minutes.
But if he's asking for your wallet,
That's
I mean,
different.
their intent already is to rob you. They're probably not trying to murder you. I mean, who knows? Sometimes people are psycho and they
You're right.
don't want your money. But typically, if somebody's trying to get money from you, they're trying not to kill you or make a scene. They're just trying to gank money and bounce.
I mean, we're talking a situation where, like what happened to my buddy. He's in a rest stop. There's a guy with a knife, and he fought back, and he somehow got away from him. And the weird thing was, he said he could have probably, if the guy wanted to catch him, he could have, or he could have at least tried to. He didn't, and never called the cops on it.
100%. Like that's like ironclad. You got to call the cops.
I know. We talked about that last week.
What's the downside?
Because he's a truck driver. He didn't want to be stuck in a town or an area. He has no idea where he's at. He didn't really even know like the exact area. He knew of sort of the place, but he's like, all right, call 911. They're gonna come here. I'm gonna
it's gonna be like 3.5 hours.
At least 3 hours.
Yeah, but 3 hours compared to that guy probably went and killed somebody else.
Oh, absolutely.
Totally.
You know.
I completely agree with that. But this was his thought, thought process.
And the shock of it, you're probably just like, let me get out of here.
Yeah,
I got to get safe. I would have to get a while away to get
Yeah,
safe.
I would get far away.
Yeah,
though,
far.
but then I'd call.
Then I'd call, yes.
Do you think you've ever been the target of a murderer? Let's say you're at a bar or at a restaurant or at a mall, and a murderer has locked eyes with you, and for a second or two, they're like, I want that as my victim. Do you think that's ever happened?
My sister plotting to kill me, does that count?
Does not.
Oh,
Is that a true
sorry.
story?
She's evil, so.
Did she really try to kill you?
No.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure probably when I was little, she probably tried to smother me with a pillow, but she was unsuccessful.
There was that one stat, and I forget the numbers of it. It was like the average person walks by one
That's
or
what
two
we've been talked about before.
serial killers in their lifetime. Like you've probably walked by at least one serial killer in your time, Beckett.
You say we just walk by the person?
Yeah.
Walked by or been within the proximity
Yeah,
of.
or you've had a conversation or been near someone that's in the process
Pretty scary.
of being a serial killer.
Yeah.
That's what that one stat said.
What if you like? Because we work with a bunch of people. We work in a building that's 5 stories tall, so we know a fair amount of people on this floor. There's still some coworkers we don't really know, but there's 4 other floors below us. There's a pretty good chance that somebody in here has got a murdering mood to them. Like we just
Totally.
have no clue, and they're living their normal life.
You think everyone in this building here, 5 stories, you think that one person's gotten away with a murder?
Probably it has to.
Totally.
It has to, right?
I stand with Denny's on that. Becky, you don't think we have one unsolved murderer in this building right now?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I bet you there is. I bet there's some skeletons and some
Becky,
calabasas.
you got to come on the other side of the tracks, brother. What do you think, Vicky?
Probably. Don't you have law offices downstairs?
Yeah.
So more than likely, some client has walked in here. Definitely.
But I'm
that's
saying,
murdered
like
somebody.
in any profession, like even your job, you have a ton of people you work with, whether they're staff or they're administration or they're teachers. There's a whole bunch of wide array. There's landscapers. There's so many people that are in the vicinity of your school.
Oh, I'm sure.
Somebody had to have murdered at some point. I would imagine.
Even if it's something like a crime of passion, like
Yeah,
somebody found their
that's what I'm
husband
saying.
cheating or something like that, and they killed them.
crime of passion, manslaughter, hitting somebody with a car and fleeing the scene,
yeah.
any of the above.
And I think you're talking more of someone that's murdered and nobody knows
And
it.
never
That's what
mentioned
I'm
it. We're talking
about.
20 years later,
Yeah.
and they still have never told anyone. It's
Don't you
kinda
think
just,
that would eat at your soul?
I'm sure it does.
But I think
It's like the
survi-
telltale heart.
It's
Yeah.
survival
Yeah.
though. Yeah, it eats at your soul. But you're like, I have to do this to survive. I can't let anybody know because if they do, my freedom is gone. I'm gonna act like it never happened.
I think you think about it every day.
It depends on the murderer,
It
man.
depends on why they murdered in the first place. Like that man that murdered his whole family. He thought he was doing a good thing because they were sinners and he was a super Christian. And he went on to live his life. He didn't get caught for 20, 30 years later.
I guess like my dad said, there's no reasoning with crazy.
Well, yeah, it's a personality thing. You're gonna have some people that kill and they're gonna think about every day, what have I done? And there's gonna be other people that kill and they're like, oh, what have I done? Oh, I've done some awesome. I love it. I think it's all gonna be different for every person.
Do you think there's people that murder once they get obsessed with the idea of murder and they go out and they actually commit a murder and then they hated it and they never mention it?
I think anything you can think of is absolutely possible when it comes to that stuff. I think there's going to be all types of examples of what you said, what I said, what you said, Beckett. I think it's in the history of
man, I'm sure.
Of what, Denny?
Of people kind, I'm sure.
People kind.
What do you define as murder, though? Because what would you call someone that pays someone $100,000 to kill someone? Do you consider that person that wrote the check?
Yep, because
a murderer,
because
hiring a hitman.
The murder would not have happened without you. You're basically pulling the trigger without pulling the trigger. You're so in there.
So what do you think about a politician on a war or a drone strike that killed some innocent kids? They don't have that.
Beckett's getting real philosophical. Over
you don't have that.
I think even behind a drone, though,
you don't have that on
murder.
conscience.
Vicky, why don't you answer this one?
You're talking about if you have ordered some kind of maneuver having to do with war.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that if you had the right moral fiber, you would carry that with you.
You carry it with you. I do think it is still
It's the
murder.
intent that matters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking
because you meant to kill Osama bin Laden, but it hit a side village and kids died.
Yeah, it's different because the goal is to take out the enemy and then other people die, which is horrible and terrible. It's different than somebody stalking innocent people and they're out there to murder because they're getting something out of it, like this physical.
Yeah.
Well, there's some murderers who murder just for the murder. They don't have any sexual deviancy behind that. Some people murder because they wanna get at that body, but like.
A lot of times it is that.
But I'm saying that's like two different categories. Because what's that one guy? The Iceman? Wasn't he like a big...
He was a hired gun, though, but he also did enjoy killing.
That guy is a guy who just enjoys killing. He just loves going out and killing. Doesn't matter. He's like essentially a hitman. So like that category of murder is different to me than the person who stalks his victim for weeks on end, studies them, and then captures them.
But it's just different MOs. It's still at the end of the day,
you're right, it's still murder.
They're murdering. If you're getting enjoyment from murdering, whether it's... Because, again, now there's just going to be different types of murderers. Like, there's different types of athletes. You're going to have people who can hit home runs and run fast, or a pitcher that throw. You know what I mean? So you're gonna have a murderer that he gets charged up by the sex part of it, and then there's gonna be people who just like to do terrible things.
For sure, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think some of them like the sexual end of it, and the murder is a byproduct of that. They're not necessarily. They kind of feel guilt for the murder itself. But their deviancy is so powerful they can't not kill the victim in order to take advantage of the body.
I mean, we spent 20 minutes on murder.
Clearly, it's something we talk about often.
Well, the reason why, though, we were spending so much time on this is because there was that much feedback on it. It was one of the most feedback subject we've had on the Weird and Whatever podcast.
Yeah.
That's what was weird about it. Okay, a little email for Vicky. Vicky, my daughter's doll is possessed, and I think it's trying to kill me and my wife. My wife fell down the stairs, and she felt like somebody pushed her. When she looked up, my daughter's doll was at the top of the stairs. Do you guys feel like dolls can get possessed? Sometimes I'll be up, nobody else is, and then boom, the doll is right behind me. What the hell's going on? Sincerely, Dale.
Well, the most famous case of a doll that's documented is Annabelle, which they made a movie, which the movie doesn't tell the true story as to why the Annabelle doll became in the possession of the Warrens who investigated. But absolutely, entities can make it look like objects are moving around and they are possessed and things like that. It's just another tool.
Have you seen in your investigations where there's been prop possessions, doll, chair, painting?
My sister actually owned a doll. My mom got it at a used store years and years and years ago. And this doll was like one of these little Southern Belle with the little China faces, and she had this big, huge purple dress. And I never liked the doll. And my sister moved, from marriage to marriage and house to house. This doll moved with her. And she finally got rid of it because she hired people to paint her house, and the doll was in a locked glass case facing one direction. And the next day she got up, and the doll had her head turned like she had been watching the painters. She was in a locked case.
And you believe her?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah. And that's when she actually finally got rid of the doll.
It'd be terrifying.
So what I think what Vicky's saying is that rather than the doll being possessed, it's maybe more likely
It's a tool.
that it's an entity that's moving the doll. Like some entity probably was more likely to have pushed the person than the actual doll itself being possessed.
It could be the entity has the attachment to the doll,
Right.
and that's just the vehicle in which it's doing the things to scare you.
My follow-up question is, why haven't they got rid of the doll? And follow-up to the follow-up, what's the proper way to dispose of that doll? Just burn it? Like,
I had to edit down the email a little bit. The kid loves the like. It's if you
so
take
get
away
another one.
Yeah, but I remember when I was a kid, if you took away my Sparky Pound Puppy, I would have.
Oh, I had to get my pillow out of the trash.
Yeah, you would have had a meltdown.
Yeah.
So you're right. You can get rid of the doll, but I guess my other question is this: can that be two different things? Can you have where they use the doll as a tool,
Right.
or can you also have a doll that's actually possessed?
Yes, according to the Warrens, the Annabelle doll itself is inhabited by an evil entity.
What do you personally believe? Do you think a doll can really become possessed? Or is that kind of, you become Bitch Boy Beckett skeptic?
I don't know. I think it's a fine line between what I believe that the doll is actually housing a demonic entity as opposed to something that has free will to move outside of that doll, but only use the doll to look like it's using specifically. I know that sounds like a weird fine line or whatever. I'm not sure. I don't have a clear stance on that. And what could be going on in that house, it has nothing to do with the doll. It could have to do with the fact they have something in their house. And again, you could have any kind of spirit who's using that doll because, let's face it, a lot of people think dolls are really creepy.
They are. Dolls are friggin' creepy, especially the older dolls, the porcelain ones that are
Child's Play used to
Oh.
freak me out.
I mean, dolls are
freak me out.
horrifying.
That's like an under the bed freaker outer with the knife underneath. Oh,
Denny's, you're awfully quiet. Why don't you weigh in on this subject?
Dolls being possessed. Yeah, I mean, I guess anything can be possessed. I find it weird when it's like dolls or certain like things like that have personality to them or humanistic characters.
Seems very
I
movie-like.
feel like anything, an amulet, a ring, anything could be possessed. I would imagine.
unless
But
it's a sex doll, doesn't even make sense.
I think we do have a sex doll question in here somewhere in these emails.
But I think people are freaked out by dolls because they don't look quite real.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
they're just not, they're like wax museum. They almost just don't look real enough. Like they call it the uncanny valley where your brain decides that it doesn't look real enough so it looks like freakish kind of to you.
Emotionless.
Yeah, and I think that makes it creepy just because a human face should have certain look to it.
I
But
think
going back to that question, if they want any help, they can send an email to contact@pointparanormal.com.
I love it.
if they were to get rid of the doll, should they burn it? Does that make things worse? Do they throw it in the water?
Great
Do
question.
they throw it in the
Now,
trash?
the Warrens believe, like with Annabelle, they believe that to destroy Annabelle would just be able, that would release that demonic entity
In a good way
out
or a
to
bad way?
attach, No, release it to attach to something else or someone else. So that's why the doll has always been kept in a locked glass case.
Do demons scare you? Or can you stand up to demons and kind of...
I've had dreams ever since I was a child that I have fought demons.
And you believe demons are real?
I believe, yes. I believe they're rare. I believe that a lot of the things that people experience in their home are human spirits. Do I believe that there is evil out there? Absolutely.
What would a demon spirit be like? What's the difference? If someone was going through a haunting right now, and we have people emailing constantly saying, we're getting haunted. And they want to know if it's demonic. That's always the
Right.
first question. Is this a demon?
Right. You're going to look for certain things. First of all, you look for a progression. At first, any kind of demonic haunt started like any other haunt. Like you're going to have doors moving and blah, 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 blah. Then you get to the point where someone you see that was one particular person in the house is being targeted. So first you're going to have oppression. And that is where the person has a hard time functioning. They're not sleeping. Not sleeping is a big thing when it comes to demons because that puts us in a vulnerable position.
I mean, now I'm going to be thinking, oh my gosh, if I'm not sleeping, there's demons here. That's going to make me not sleep even more.
So then you have, if that person is successfully targeted and oppressed, then you have possession. And that's when the person may have time periods where they don't remember what they've done. They exhibit strange behavior. And a demon's ultimate goal is that someone needs to die, whether it's the person they've possessed or they use the person that they're possessing to murder someone else.
And it's usually the way they make it look like it's either an accident or a suicide or...
Right, or just flat out. There's been cases where they have they have possessed the person. The person just straight up killed somebody and said, "Yeah, I killed them."
Okay, you say cases though. Is there an autopsy report? Has doctors signed off on that saying, "Oh my God, he's got demon disease"?
Well, no. They would have. What happens in some of the famous possession cases? The person who is possessed, if they're the target that's supposed to die, they're not going to eat. Their body's going to deteriorate. So they're going to die basically of natural causes because they're not getting nourishment, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, that their body's just going to shut down naturally.
I wonder if there's anyone listening right now who honestly believes that their loved one was taken out by a demon.
There might be.
If you feel that, please email us. I would love to actually talk to you.
And some of the other things you look for things in threes because 3 is a mocking of the Trinity. So let's say someone gets scratched and there's 3 scratch marks. If you hear tapping and it's in the pattern of 3.
That we did hear tapping of 3. We did.
Yeah, but it can't. It's got to be like more than one. You know, it's not just one thing. Don't worry, you're not possessed. Don't worry, you're fine.
You sound demon hopeful.
No, I'm not.
I know.
I'm not demon hopeful. I do not. I got rats still. I don't want demons too.
You don't need both.
And then you look for strange smells that can't be accounted for. Like they may suddenly appear. It smells like rotting flesh. Smells like sulfur, rotten eggs. But it doesn't necessarily hang around, forever. It'll come and go and things like that. And hearing voices and strange behaviors and stuff.
I'm still curious proper disposal because I can tell you in the future if and when I have a daughter and I have any inclination to think that doll had something to do with me getting pushed down the steps, I don't care if my daughter's mad at me and crying for a week. Bitch boy Beckett is gonna burn.
What I would do personally if I had one that was connected to an object and I needed to get rid of the object, I would contact John Zaffis, who is the nephew of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who has a haunted museum.
But would he get back to you though?
I interviewed him before. Absolutely. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, he would get back to me.
That'd be a cool
That's
interview.
great. Yeah,
He's very approachable. John Zaffis is very approachable.
That's very cool. He'd answer all of our questions.
Probably.
And he's pretty knowledgeable.
Oh yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
They're one of the famous families.
Yeah. So if I had an object, I would get in touch with him and have him take care of it.
Let's book him. I like that. Yeah, let's do that.
I think that movie you like, The Conjuring, wasn't that based on the Warrens?
Warrens. Mm-hmm.
That was such a good movie. I really, because a lot of the scarier movies today, I don't really
They
like.
rely on that shock.
Well, it just seems like it's the same friggin' movie. It's shot the same way. Everything's the same, even when it's different content. It's the same.
Yep.
And I was hanging on the edge of my seat on that movie. I thought that was so good.
Yeah, and that one actually has Annabelle in it.
Okay. Yes,
If
it
you
does.
remember, Annabelle
at
is-
the end.
Yeah, well, I believe at the time of this case, they had already gotten the Annabelle doll, and it was already. They used to keep their stuff in the house in the basement.
I like the woman that plays the Warren lady in those movies. I have a little ghost crush on her, or a demon crush, whatever you want to call it. What was the moment that separated your life before and after? Basically, okay, you had your life, and then everyone's got a before and after in their life. So, Vicky, it might be before you were a mom, you had your life, and now you're a mom. Everyone's got that before and after. What is yours in your life? It doesn't have to be your daughter, but could you guys think of what it was before and after this moment?
Well, since we're talking about paranormal stuff, I was always a scaredy cat. So I was a teenager sleeping on my parents' floor. Like if I saw a scary movie, and the moment that my snap moment was I was laying on the floor and I was talking to God and I said, I don't want to be scared anymore. And I got an image of like God on the throne and I was sitting there and he put his arms around me. And in real life, I felt the warmth go around my shoulders and I have not been scared since.
So that was your before after? I love that. That's a good one. Okay, Becky, you got to follow that shit. That's a good one.
Like a before and after of like when I was scared?
No.
It could be
It's
anything.
any life thing.
Any life thing where something that changed you.
Yeah, for example, my life before, I would say probably getting this job. Before
radio.
Yeah, before radio, I was a baseball instructor. And I looked at life one way, and I was going about life one way. And then I got into this career, and it's definitely the before-after moment for me.
I would say it's gonna be cheesy. I definitely gonna make fun of. I would say my first girlfriend totally changed me.
Bitch, boy. Everyone laughing back there.
Because I was the kid in elementary school and middle school. I got good grades and I was really shy. I wasn't a mute, but like I was that kid that was really quiet in class. Like had like a couple like good buddies of mine. I was a late bloomer. I went to Pope my freshman year and I had braces and a shaved head and I was in the gym every day playing football and working out and whatever. And then I got my braces out, grew my hair out.
Grew out that mane.
And I started dating like the hot senior girl.
Bragger.
That's why he's telling the story.
He's doing a humble brag.
She totally ripped my heart out. But
look at this shit.
But I remember my guidance counselor called me into the office. He's like, "Hey man, what's going on? Like, is it something going up with your parents' divorce?" I was like, "Parents' divorce? I was in second grade." They're like, "Oh," and he pulled out my grades because my grades started to go down.
You're leaving it in the sheets.
But I think that people think I'm this big extrovert now because I'm in sales, and they think that I'm relatively outgoing.
The reality show.
I think the reality TV show. I think I still have a big introvert undercurrent pull in me. Like, I think if I'm in a social setting, like I probably like a couple glasses of wine is a crutch. I feel like I need that to like get outside of my own head, and so I guess to put a bow on it, I think that sophomore year is kind of like I transition more from an introvert to an extrovert, even though I still have some qualities of both.
That's because he was getting that senior poontang. Denny's, what would be yours?
I'm kind of in the line with Beckett, not necessarily a girlfriend, but I would say...
but his girlfriend was Mary Jane.
I'd probably say middle school was a big turning point. I would have liked to have thought it was later in my life, but I think it was earlier. And the only reason being was that I was a pretty good student all the way till about 7th grade. Just doing it all right, did all my homework, always came home, hung with my family, did everything right. We moved here to Stuart, Florida when I was in 7th grade. And we moved here. I mean, I was a normal kid, just a straight run-of-the-mill kid. And we moved to Stuart. Like, all my classmates looked like models. Like, everybody was tan, fit. They all surfed. They did all these cool things. And I was like, man, these kids are, like, next-level kids. And, like, it was cool not to, like, study or not to, like, focus on school and all this stuff, So you're trying to, like, fit in. And I just naturally was always very good at school just because I had practiced in my youth. Mm-hmm. But so I was starting to see the change in my personality of trying to not seem so excited about things or not show all my cards. There was all these like things I learned in 7th and 8th grade that really shaped a lot of my future.
So that's your before, after, or you're like, that was before my life, after?
I'd watch movies. I watched like Star Wars. I'd play with toys. And then I'm hanging out in middle school. They're talking about keggers and smoking pot. And I'm like, oh my God, last year I was literally playing with like He-Man figures.
It's true Hollywood story of Denny's.
When I was in 7th grade, I mean, middle school was really tough for me. I had a really tough time. I mean, someone could say I still do. Really tough time wanting to get older. I wanted to just kind of play with my G.I. Joes. Everybody was going to the movies and drinking, and they're going to movies with girls on dates, and people are, having sex now, and they're getting hammered at parties, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having a tough time just changing to different classes and having different teachers, because where I came from in Lake Park, you had one teacher the entire year, and you didn't change classes, and I moved to Palm Beach Gardens out to middle school, and like you're saying, everyone was so adult. And they're like mini adults, and they're all hugging each other and smoking.
The girls are wearing bras and short skirts. I mean, literally the year before, everybody was just normal.
I remember I was in 7th grade, and one of the most popular kids in my class, he was talking to me. I'm like, oh, this guy's being pretty cool. And the only reason why he was talking because he was trying to sell me his G.I. Joes. And I was meeting him in the locker room like a drug deal. Like, hey, do you have 1987 Roadblock, the Roadblock figure? Yeah, it's like, yeah, here you go, dork. Take all my figures. But it's just weird because I wasn't there mentally yet.
Yeah.
Everyone's different.
Well, that's what everybody ages different. And middle school is probably a rough time for everybody. I think hormones are going crazy. You're trying to find yourself. You're trying to find your identity in this world. There's a lot going on. I remember the first movie I went to in a group. I was excited because I was like, it's a group movie. Usually I just went with my family or like 2 of my friends on a weekend. So it was a big group movie, and I'm sitting next to my buddy Robert and stuff, and we watched the whole movie, and we come out. I'm eating popcorn, just doing my normal thing. And he's like, "Oh, dude, I just got a hand job during that movie."
Wow.
And I was like, "Cool, man. What's a hand job?" Like, I had no idea what the hell that was.
Is that a new video game? I'd love to play
I
it.
just didn't know what it was, and he told me. I was like, "Oh my god, that was happening during the movie." And I probably seem so square, but like,
I get it, man.
it's just that was a big turning point, I'd say.
Middle school was very tough. I think it was tough for me, but I think you're right. For a lot of people, middle school, because you're not quite, you're growing.
Yeah.
You're almost a teenager, but you're not quite there.
Yeah, it's tough. So what's your turning point, Jaybird?
It was probably this job.
Same. This job.
The career, probably.
Radio, yeah.
Well, because I was on such a baseball track in my life.
Yeah.
And then as soon as baseball got done, I was going to go try to get my master's degree in mental health counseling. And I had a plan, and then it just went completely.
You went the other direction.
Yeah. I was trying to get more responsible in my life, and then I joined radio, which you get rewarded for being irresponsible.
How old were you?
I was 26.
And how I'm curious actually. How'd radio start for you?
How did it start for
Yeah.
me? I got on the KVJ show.
So did you meet Kevin?
No, they had they lost one of their members who did stunts on the show, and they wanted to find a new person to do stunts. So my friend called me, and I never had listened to morning radio a day in my life. I just didn't like it.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, well, who's listening to this shit?
Yeah.
So she's like, you got to try out for this job, blah, blah, blah. So I looked into it. I go, all right, I'll give it a shot. And there was like this 2-week tryout. And I ended up getting the gig, but it was supposed to just be pretty much for stunts, and then I kind of morphed
Was
into
it with Kevin in Virginia?
Yeah, it was with Kevin in Virginia.
wow.
Yeah, I got on the show that way, and then it kind of
Got it. Cool.
Yeah, took
cool.
off
I never
that
knew
way.
that.
Yeah, that's funny. And you never tell that story.
And then it's kind of boring.
No,
and,
it's cool.
And then because of Denny's, because me and Denny's started doing music together, I saw how, because Denny's is very understated. Not to blow Denny's right now, but he's wickedly talented in many different areas
Yep.
with the creative arts. So when I got with Denny's, I said we have to have him. We
Yep.
have to have him. There was like 5 other people in line for the job, and I was very vocal about no, we
true.
have to have Denny's for our show.
So
Yeah.
how did you meet Denny's?
Recording music.
Yeah.
His girlfriend at the time listened to our show. He was recording music at a place where I would do gigs sometimes. And I met him. I was like, yeah, my girlfriend listens to your show. I sleep till like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I 1 in the afternoon, so I never.
I was like Bird. I was never up early enough to ever catch it.
And then he started recording the music for the show. I'd go to him and we'd record, and then we ended up becoming great friends,
Nice.
basically best friends. So
That's cool.
brothers. Good answers from everybody. I like that. Someone wanted to. It was a very long email, but they were just talking about, not to get too feel goody here, but it was just about how they were having a really terrible time, and they're talking about how they are very, very socially awkward. Sometimes they suffer from social anxiety, and they were really, really depressed. And some dude that this guy works with just walked into his little cubicle one day and said, hey, man, just want to let you know, I don't know if anyone ever tells you this, but you're really crushing at your job, and you're doing awesome. And then he just walked away. And the person who was struggling said it lifted their spirits so much to the point where for the next 3 weeks they wrote on that encouragement, and they saw improvement not only in their job but their relationships with their family, just by that one guy going in there and saying, hey, you're doing really good. And not to sound too corny, but encouragement is something that a lot of people don't realize.
It's a lost art.
It's a lost art, man. Encouraging somebody, because I feel like everybody's struggling with something.
Totally.
And you never know when that one, hey, man, you're doing awesome today, can turn somebody around. I know it helps me.
Oh, the mileage is more than one can ever know.
You think it's nothing, and you think you're just saying, just this bullshit statement to somebody.
Yeah.
You don't know, man. That could really change someone's life.
Totally.
So I guess the commentary on that, encourage more people. I think it's going to help.
Well, just think about it. There's like that one thing that if somebody says to you, you're just like, oh, I'm taken back. Thank you very much. Like you can't believe that they acknowledged something that you hold pride with.
Yeah.
I can think of one comment my baseball coach said to me when I was 14 or 15 years old, and it changed my perspective for the entire season. So I do think people struggle. I think people, you may look at a person like Beckett, beautiful hair, great skin, tight little ass. But you even say you struggle sometimes with even talking to people.
Totally.
You know, I mean, everyone's going through something.
Yeah. I'm listening to a book. I'm a big fan of Audible, and there's a book called Unfuck Yourself, and it's written by this guy who also, I think he was the same author of that book that's gotten a lot of popularity, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's got this thick Scottish accent, so he narrates the book, which is kind of cool. It's like
That's
listening.
fun.
It's like listening to Braveheart, like like
Sean Connery readings.
But what he said, that kind of dovetails into it is like encourage yourself, and not just like in a cheesy affirmation point of view, but you don't think that Steve Jobs, Martin Luther King, like these people that we look up to and we're like, oh man, they just killed life. They absolutely murdered it. Like they did this great thing in acting or business or in music or whatever. You don't think that none of those guys went through phases in their head where like nothing's going to work out. This sucks, blah, blah, blah.
Well,
like everyone goes through that. And
yeah.
you need to have that in your mind when you're in those little places, that everyone does that.
Big fan of failing. I think that
It's important.
If you don't want to fail, I just think you're going to have a tough life. You have to fail.
Oh, you'll never do anything.
You're going to learn everything you need to learn in life by falling on your face and failing the shit out of things.
100%.
Embarrassment will teach you a lot.
It will. Well, if you could tell that quick story about how embarrassment taught you humility when you were making fun of that one kid. I think you might have told it before.
Oh, yeah, I told it on the After the Show podcast.
So, it's an important story.
I was a young kid, and I think I was in 4th or 5th grade, and you know how you are then. You're trying to appease your audience, your friends and everything. You're trying to be cool.
Say things you don't necessarily mean.
Exactly. Stuff you don't really know about, or you're just trying to make people laugh or whatever, try to be friends with everybody. Well, there's this one kid, Polly, that he was like an older kid, but we just getting in the group that I was with, I was making fun of him, and then it turned into a whole thing where the principal, I had to meet with his family, and I found out like a lot of history about this kid and this kid that I've been making fun of, and it really, it hurt my feelings that I was saying such horrible things to him. Nothing like insanely horrible.
But didn't you get embarrassed in front of like a bunch of kids?
Yeah, well, so anyway, I called him out publicly. I made a joke, and he turned around, and as like people do, and he started calling me out right in front of everybody. He's like, "Yeah, all right, you want to do this?" And like getting in my face, and I got so embarrassed by it because I just didn't think that was going to be a reaction.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought you say a joke, people laugh, and then you move on with your life. I didn't get it yet.
And you looked like a little bitch.
So he put me in my place.
He totally
in
brought a
front
gun to a knife fight.
in like a schoolyard, in front of everyone. Teachers were feeling bad. Everybody felt bad for me. And then I got put in the principal's office. We had to do this long meeting with all the teachers. My parents came and their parents came. We had this whole thing, and I was so embarrassed by it that I just was like, I'm not gonna make fun of people anymore, man.
Humbling.
I just really never really saw a need for it anymore. Because at first, when you see a guy you've never met before, and whatever it be that you're making fun of, you make fun of him, you guys laugh, and you move on with your life. That guy leaves your life, you no longer think about him again. You never think about him again. That guy thinks about you every single day of his life. You have just impacted that dude's life for good or bad.
Same with saying horrible shit online to somebody. And I'm talking about something like Vicky. You've got your own insecurities that that only you really know. But let's say somebody really zeroes in on that insecurity. Maybe it's about your daughter or the way whatever that
Something
can
that
tear you
hurts.
down. That's going to affect you. I don't care if it's online or not. You don't have to have someone speak that to you for that to mess with your mind.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. And even like if someone says something that I strive so hard for and they totally misinterpret it, like they do a 180 on it, I am destroyed.
Like, give me an example.
I obsess with it. Well, I am a little, that I get a little defensive when someone, questions certain things of how I investigated.
What do you mean?
And this, that, and the other. Because I've strived so hard all these years to try to leave clients much better off than they were before they called me in. And I've always been careful, and I research, and I don't pretend to know all the answers, and I just go about things, the best way I can. So when somebody attacks that, I'm just like, right on it.
I get it.
But I keep it. I remember every single email that criticized me or something. I remember that.
I think people are lying when they say things don't get to I think you can get better at reading stuff and
Dealing
hearing
with it.
stuff. But if you care about something and someone really just twists that freaking thing and they zone in on that thing, you're gonna be like a cat in water.
Well, on a high scale, not to cut you off, I apologize. The when you were talking about Martin Luther King or Steve Jobs, high figures. Look at Justin Timberlake lately. Everybody panned his latest album. He went right back in the studio and started recording a new album.
It fucks with your head.
You can't get any higher up than Justin Timberlake. I mean, he's an all-star.
Yeah.
So you just shows you that anyone can be rattled by anything.
Totally.
Well, Dave Chappelle's even said it. He goes, you'll be in a comedy room and you're killing it. Everybody in that room is laughing, but one guy. And you're the whole time thinking, they're like, why isn't that fucking guy laughing?
Totally.
What's this guy?
How do I get this guy to
Screw
giggle?
this guy.
Yeah.
And it's true. That can happen.
And it does. If that's your trade, man, that hurts your feelings.
Were you ever, did you ever get into a lot of fights growing up, Vicky? Physical?
Nope.
Did anybody here I don't think anyone was a fighter on this show.
Not too often. I got in a few scuffles.
I got in a few scuffles, but I was never,
I wasn't like meet you at 9 p.m.,
a lot of the fights, the scuffles that I'd been in it always was about drinking.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's so weird. You go into a bar, two guys bump into each other by accident. All of a sudden, they're like the worst enemies. They don't even know each other. Fuck you to fuck you.
Yeah.
I got in a fight once. It was like a big bar fight. Probably about 15 of my friends. We were in college, so we all came out as a group, and they got in a big old fight. And I jumped in to start fighting, and I'm just not good at fighting. I'm punching this guy's calf because it was the only thing I could reach. And I look, and it's my buddy. I'm like, oh, snap. Sorry. I just backed out and started drinking.
You're punching his.
I'm punching his leg.
That's amazing.
I was trying not to get in there because I didn't want to get hit or nothing.
Oh, that is amazing.
I was just like on the sidelines like that.
Well, with that said, I think it's time to jump into a little Denny's random facts.
Oh yeah,
You have your mind blown sound effect ready to go?
possible. Let's see. So I found this cool site that just has a ton of cool facts for you guys, and some I think you guys will like more than others. One cool thing I stumbled upon that I didn't know the name of, the cardboard thing that goes around your coffee to keep your hand from getting hot. That has a name. Do you guys ever know that?
Sleeve.
You're leading
Cozy?
you're leading with this one?
Well, neither of you guys are right. Sleeve, koozie. Yeah, well, it's called a zarf. That's the only reason I bring it up, because it has the worst name I've ever heard.
There's some guy that's a millionaire because of a zarf.
There is a guy. Well, there was a movie with Patrick Dempsey where he played the guy who invented that.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, God. Or have you guys ever seen this movie? I got to remember the name of it. It wasn't very good, but it was about him. I think it was called like Best Friends, or not Friends with Benefits, but something down that route. Maid of Honor, maybe?
Okay.
So in the beginning, they digitally impose his head on a younger man's body for the entire first 15-minute scene. It looks so weird. His head's like floating. If you guys got to see it, I don't want to get too much off topic, but you definitely got to watch it. It's definitely a weird thing. All right, so let's go to another fact. I see you guys weren't too blown away by the zarf here. Do you guys know where the word Pez comes from?
Like the candy?
The candy, P-E-Z. That's not even an American word.
Tell us.
It comes from the German word for peppermint. Pfefferminz. That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah,
You guys didn't seem too excited about
you
that.
can tell by
huh?
the crowd. That seems pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, they're not minty at all, so they're not.
Yeah, well, I
pepperminty.
guess when Pez first came out, they didn't intend to be all the flavors that they were. They were supposed to be like kind of like a Tic Tac alternative, and then they decided against it.
Not a big lover of the Pez. I think that's kind of a shitty candy. It's all about the toy, not the candy.
Pretty bland.
It's got to be one of the cheapest candies there is, besides those like Smarties.
It's like a glorified Smartie.
It is. It is. I will never bring up Pez to you guys again.
I'm
here.
just busting your dick over there. I think I love this segment. You know that.
So this one I know Kevin would be excited about, because he was real into that show with Pablo Escobar.
Yeah.
With the Medellin. What was that show called? They stopped making
Bloodline.
Not Bloodline.
Narcos.
Narcos. So Pablo Escobar, I stumbled upon this fact. He was spending $2,500 a month on just rubber bands because he had so much money. He couldn't keep it all bundled together.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so weird, not to cut you off on your segment, because we'll go right back to that, but it's weird how many people are obsessed with this cocaine criminal life. People love watching that shit.
Well, because it's so over the top. You have money, power, and influence, all from an illegal drug, something we're not supposed to have.
Well, you're like watching a TV show, and then you find out that it's real. You're like, what?
That's the craziest part about it, is a lot of that is not exaggerated.
I know.
They literally, he was running everything.
Crazy.
Another cool fact, there was supposed to be a sequel to Beetlejuice. It was written and everything and never produced. It was called Beetlejuice Goes to Hawaii.
I feel like I'm the only person that didn't love Beetlejuice. I
didn't
liked it. I liked it. It was fine. I just didn't love it. And people,
I didn't love it.
you didn't love it,
You didn't love Beetlejuice? That movie's.
Vicky?
That's my eldest son's favorite movie when he was growing up.
You love it?
Beetlejuice. I like it. He was obsessed with it.
I'm with
though.
you. I like it.
I thought it was real like counterculture for the time
It
frame,
was.
which I thought was kind of cool. Maybe because weirdly, Tim Burton, when he first started his career, like Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice, I did really like those flicks because they were a little bit different. As time went on, I think he started getting a little cheesy or a little bit. He was almost clichéing his own work.
He was a parody of himself.
Exactly. He kind of got a little too out there for me.
Yeah.
And nothing against him. I still watch him just because maybe fan loyalty from the past. But
All right, give us 2 more of your best facts. I mean, really blow our minds.
well, all right. So this one is for you, Bird. J-A-Y. That term is an old-fashioned term, slang for a foolish person.
Oh, damn.
Hence, when somebody was ignoring street signs and being foolish, they would call them jaywalkers. And that's where the term comes from.
Now he's blowing minds over here. Okay.
Here's another mind blower, at least for me. Both Adele and Lady Gaga are younger than Carly Rae Jepsen.
Who's Carly Rae?
From iCarly.
I just, no.
No, hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, right?
I hate that song so much.
You guys don't think that's mind blowing? She is younger.
Not really, because they all kind of seem young to me anyway. And
To me, Adele seems kind of old.
Adele seems
Yeah,
like she's
I-
40.
She's an
Yeah.
old soul
Yeah.
yeah,
with that kind of voice.
yeah.
Doesn't she? Lady Gaga? You don't think? How old are you?
Gaga seems like she's like 32.
Yeah, that's what I would imagine. She's like 37.
No, Gaga's
Oh,
not that old.
Late 20s, early 30s.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got to be close to the 30s
Yeah.
if she's not already.
Well, that blew my mind. How about this one? This is the last one I'll leave you
You want to
with.
end on a good note? I get it.
Do you guys know Barbie's real name, the Barbie doll? What her full name was when she first came out? She was actually titled by her full name, and they shortened it to Barbie later. Is Barbara Millicent Roberts.
Did you know Ken doesn't have a dick?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, here, just to throw at you since we're on that Barbie topic, there was another Mattel toy sold called Growing Up Skipper. Skipper was supposed to be...
That's the sister.
Do you remember this one?
I remember the sister.
Well, so the company was coming at an odds because Barbie had been out for a while and Skipper hadn't aged, and they wanted to promote Skipper moving to the next phase in her life. So they created a Growing Up Skipper doll where if you pumped her arms, her breast would grow.
Really?
Yes,
that would
I looked it
not
up.
work today.
That
Yeah,
would not
because
work
I had
today.
a Skipper doll and she was flat chested.
She was flat chested.
Yep.
Well, that was the thing. They wanted one to transition to the next phase in her life. And so they did one, literally, you pump her arms. And I looked it up on the internet. It's hilarious. They actually have this thing.
Wow.
It makes her breast grow.
Did we? First of all, Denny's a great round of blown facts or mind-blowing facts. Did we ever do the game? Because if I couldn't understand the email completely, but I did like the concept. Did we ever do a if you were a monster, what sound would you make?
No.
Okay, well, we're gonna play that game right now. So yeah, sorry, Vicky. This is part of the weird whatever process. We have to step out of our comfort zone. So next time, bring me a math test.
Well, I'm actually a reading teacher, so
Well, that would work too.
Word problems.
Okay, if you were a monster, Denny, what kind of monster would you be? What kind of sound would it be? This is very in the weird category.
Oh, I'd be a nighttime monster. I'd have no eyes. I would see with my fingers. I'd have like just.
Ooh, okay, I like that.
Oh yeah, and then I would creep around. I'd probably get real low and lurky, and in the shadows I'd be like. Right as I'm like attacking.
Look, I don't know. That's gonna be tough to beat. You're trending right now.
And then I'd feel you with my eye fingers.
All right, Vicky, you're gonna go last. I know you don't
Okay,
want to do
yeah.
this, so you have time to think about. Beckett, I'm sorry. We gotta get a monster from you.
I would say that I wouldn't try to fake trying to be like a badass monster with like some kind of lion roar or something. So I'd probably just go the other way with it. And I'd probably just do like some like weird where like you could hear me before you saw me. And like it would kind of be like that ominous, like let you know that something coming, and it'd be like where was that movie? There was a movie that did something like this where it was like
The Grudge.
The Grudge.
But we need yours. We need your sound.
My sound.
What kind of monster sound?
I think I would do something that almost sounds like not scary.
Just give it to
but
us.
it lets you know that I'm coming to like eat your
It's
soul.
like, hey there.
It'd be like a woo.
I like it. I totally like
It
it.
would almost be disarming, right?
Yeah,
You'd be
no,
like, woo!
I totally.
You're like, oh, that sounds fun, but then your soul comes out.
It's almost a little Ric Flair kind of.
Right.
Woo! I
Yeah.
love that. I think I would want to be a monster that lived, and you could breed my type from carpets. I would live in carpets.
Oh, that's cool.
You wouldn't know until you're just laying, watching TV, and you have a carpet. All of a sudden, you see this like slimy thing rise
from it.
and all of a sudden it goes.
Would your arch nemesis be a vacuum?
Don't ask me stupid questions. I literally had no idea what kind of sound I was going to make. I really just wanted to hear what you guys sounded like. Okay, at the moment, Denny, do you have a drum roll over there? Come on.
Not worth the drum roll.
All right, what kind of monster, Vicky?
I would probably be like, well, we talked about this earlier. I'd probably be like a little doll kind of looking monster thing.
Okay, I
scary.
like
And
it.
before you heard me coming, you'd hear la la la.
Oh, I'd be terrifying.
I mean, Vicky, you give me goosebumps. It's so scary. Chills. Very, very, very good job. I had the weakest one. You guys nailed it. That was great. I love those games, by the way. That might be a regular feature.
What, monster noises?
Monster noises. Do we have time for the hot seat? Yes, we do.
Oh, I thought you guys forgot about it.
No. Okay.
I was
so,
like, do I tell him?
so these aren't that bad. These aren't that bad.
According to you.
And the deal was, if you decide to not answer a question, you give $100 to our charity, Little Smiles, which is a great cause.
And how many questions are there?
There's 5 or 6. Just relax. We'll start with something easy. And every week, next week we'll do. You want to go next week, Vicky? Get it over with.
Or we can do Denny's, whatever you want.
You betcha. I
I'm
love
fine.
doing these.
I'm fine with getting it over with.
All right,
All right.
cool. Okay, Mr. Beckett. This is like a throwaway question.
Are these like rapid fire where I can like answer one word questions, or I have to like give like a big elaboration?
You
on
have
them?
to give your answer with. If it goes past a minute and you're like, oh, I don't know, $100.
Yeah, I can give you 60 seconds of dead air.
Okay, so who's the worst person you ever met out of the Bachelor franchise? Bachelorette franchise as a person. You're like, they're a toxic person. I would never want to do business with them.
I wasn't on a season with him, but I would have to say Chad, just from like he.
You know Chad, Denny. He's the guy that pooped his pants.
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
he's famous for.
It's too
Hey,
much.
getting
Oh,
blasted.
yeah.
It's too much.
That one's easy. He seems like kind of like a douche.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the worst thing you've ever done while you're under the influence?
I had a good friend that said I hit on his girlfriend, and the next day, he told me about it, and I've blacked out a couple times in my life, and like usually I'm like the fun drunk, and I'm definitely not a poacher, and
Poacher.
Poaching on Poon.
A poon poacher.
and I'm getting ready to turn 36 at the end of the month. That's never ever happened. So I almost didn't believe him. And he was almost mad at me that I didn't believe him.
Oh, so the next
yeah.
day he's talking to you about it, and you're like, no, I
he's
didn't.
kind of a jokester too. So I thought
He was fucking with you.
I thought he was totally messing with
Yeah.
me because everyone knows me as like this like fun guy, like
Nice. One stab someone in the back.
yeah, and like I have buddies of mine, like some of my best friends are gay guys, and like I'll like joke around with them and like flirt with them as a joke, whatever, like no big deal, like it's all fun and games. So I thought maybe he misinterpreted something, whatever. And to this day, I still feel horrible. But I don't remember doing it.
And you apologized and you felt terrible.
Profusely apologized when he kept going with it. I was like, oh my god! Like to this day, I still feel horrible about it.
Beckett's a good dude,
Yeah.
man. If that's the worst thing you've done, I'm like, oh my god.
But it was almost hard for me to believe because, like, don't get me wrong, I thought she was really pretty, whatever. But it was not even someone like a girl that I was like,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Totally.
That's why
Yeah,
it was so
like
hard
betting
for me
on.
to believe. Yeah.
All right, warming up here, seeing the
Poachers.
seedier side of Beckett. Okay. Last time you cried and for what?
Ferdinand, the movie. Have you guys seen it?
No.
What is it?
What? You haven't seen Ferdinand?
No.
It's the movie.
You cried, you bawled.
No, I didn't bawl.
That's not tearing up. The last time you bawled, baby, about something that you're like, oh man. Yeah, it can't be about, I saw a Hallmark card.
I can't remember a time that I've like bawled. I the last time I was like really, really upset is when I was going through that bad breakup like about a year and a half ago.
You were rough. You're in rough shape.
I was in a dark place for about a month. I mean, like dark place, like I wasn't gonna commit suicide or whatever, but like I was in one of those funks where like I didn't want to return a client's phone call. Like I was just like, I was in a bad place.
All right. We'll do 2 more. I'm not trying to make you cry again. No, I'm just kidding. Something in your life you have to go back and change. And the answer, I don't change anything. I live with no regrets. We don't accept that answer.
Yeah, I don't believe in that either.
I think everyone's got something if they had a chance to change it, like, yeah, let me go back and wear a condom. Whatever it is.
I would say that because I believe that little things can have a huge change in a trajectory of someone's life. And I got really into lacrosse. It might sound like that, not that horrible, but for me it was really, and you'll probably appreciate this, I grew up playing baseball. My grandfather was baseball coach for 25 years at Fort Lauderdale High School. I went to all the Yankee spring training game. I was a really good baseball player growing up, and I messed up my shoulder playing lacrosse. And ironically, I could continue after I went through physical therapy to continue playing lacrosse, but playing baseball, I tried to play freshman year at Pope, and I was a third baseman and a pitcher because I always had one of the stronger arms on the team, and I couldn't play anymore. I was like icing my shoulder after the game. I was warming up, and to me, like I had to quit baseball, and that was something I played. Like, I mean, my family had me in like T-ball, like as far back as I could remember.
Dude, I would love to go back in time and strike out your pretty ass. Oh, man, I want it.
Well, that was your original career path, right? Baseball?
Totally. Like, I didn't think that I was going to be playing for the Marlins or the Yankees per se or anything, but I was like, I'm going to college, some decent college. I'm playing baseball. Like, because some of my best friendships, are from sports and lacrosse and everything like that. So, I sometimes even think about it today. I'm like, man, imagine what it would have been if I would have like had that. Because I was a good lacrosse player, but I was a way better baseball player.
Okay. Last question.
All right.
When's the last time you've had sex with a person? When's the last time you've done the deed?
I'd have to go for a I don't know.
What are you, I don't know. Are we getting $100 for a charity, or are you going to tell us?
Does myself count?
No, it does not count. No, I'm not going to allow any kind of loopholes whatsoever.
I would say it's got to be probably about a week.
A week? Well, look at that.
I thought you were glowing last week. I didn't say anything.
A week ago. Is this something that's serious, or is this?
There's follow-up questions. This is question number 6.
What people want to know? What's going on? All right, you don't have to answer that.
We'll see.
I thought he did a good job.
They
weren't too tough.
No, I'm an open book though. I really think you could almost ask me. Well, I'm not going to open Pandora's box here.
but the reason for this hot seat thing is just to get people to know you guys a little bit better, get the personality. I mean, you guys are fascinating. People want to know more.
I don't really think that there's anything that someone could really ask me that. I don't think that for the most part, I would be pretty open sharing.
Oh no, there's things that I would. Okay, here's $100. All right, quick round of would you rather. Denny's, would you rather have Jen become a well-known porn star? Oh, that would be rough.
It's rough.
Or have Jen arrested in a third world country and imprisoned for 10 years. You can't visit her either.
What's worse, a well-known porn star or a not well-known porn star?
Yeah, you're right. She's a porn star. People know her, but she's not making that much money.
Not making that much.
But everyone knows in your circle.
They've
like,
seen it.
Jen's really got a
She's
different
going
way.
paycheck to paycheck on that.
I probably have to do that one only because third world country prison for 10 years is going to be rough.
What if I knocked off 5 years of that sentence?
5 years off?
5 years versus the porn.
Yeah, I'd probably still ever do porn, man. Just because
that'd be tough,
third
though.
world country prison is not great.
It might be basically the same thing.
It'd be like broke down palace.
But you would be torn up, though, if that was
It would not be ideal. I'd be torn up in either situation.
Yeah,
but at least I could watch her, kind of get some pleasure out of it, I guess.
That's honest.
The prison, she's
honest.
gone.
That's honest.
She's no longer there.
Okay, Vicky, would you rather join the Army right now for the next 15 years of your life, but you're going to always be in a war? You're always on the battlegrounds, you're fighting, and that's your life for the next 15 years. Or you have to move to Libya, not tell anyone you went, and everyone assumes you're dead.
Libya.
You do that.
Mm-hmm. It might be a nice vacation.
How bad is Libya right now?
I just picked the first. I don't even know if it's bad. So please, anybody don't take any offense to that. It was the first country I thought of.
Is it because of Back to the Future and the Libyans?
It's absolutely because of Back to the Future and the Libyans.
The first one you can think of.
Denny's knows me. You're completely right. So you really pick that.
Well, listen, I had a hard time trying to move my couch yesterday, so I can't see myself physically fighting for the next 15 years.
So you're in there, and when you make that deal, you know going into that deal you're not going to die in war. You're going to see it all. But once you're in the war, you always assume you're going to get killed. But it's going to go on for 15 years.
No, I just disappear.
Really? And you can't talk to your daughter ever again?
I disappear.
Wow. Okay, I think I would too. I don't know. It's
if everyone assumes that I'm dead too, then my kids would be okay financially and things like that. So
when you're in Libya, you live underground in a cage, and wild.
He's always adding stuff.
I wasn't done with it yet. Wild boars are constantly trying to eat you. And Mr. Beckett, we've heard a lot from you today. Would you rather? And again, these questions are never to offend anybody.
Oh, God. when it enters like that.
Would you rather sleep with your mother
God.
A random junkie who uses needles, also a well-known hooker that has an STD? Incurable.
Well, he didn't say I can use a condom.
No. Again, loopholes out the way. You can't use a condom. No, you're full on getting it on.
I think I go junkie and take my chances because I'm a guy. I think it's harder to get an STD as a guy too.
That's your reason.
Yeah, because it's more like you're the penetrator, not the penetrated.
Yeah, I imagine there's some backsplash.
Yeah, I go a little. You pee afterwards, and you do a little bleach.
You're right. It's not internal.
Do a little bleach.
That doesn't work.
Bleach. Definitely don't
did he
do
say
that.
pee after and then get some bleach?
No, pee flushes you out.
Pee, you say?
Pee.
That's not gonna cure you.
You're always supposed to pee after sex. It's
But
important.
that's not gonna cure.
It is important.
Bleach and peeing is your combating.
That's not good.
I'll dilute the bleach.
Yeah.
I love this crew. I love,
use dial and like a little diluted bleach.
Oh yeah, that'll get rid of it.
What would anyone else do? Think about it. If you knew that you had just had sex with someone in the example that you just gave, what would you do immediately afterwards?
I mean, I think you shower because you're showering your
Well, you're just
soul.
going to do hot water? You're totally going to use...
It's not going to, but it doesn't, I mean, I don't...
You're totally going to use something stronger than you ever used before.
I don't think bleach. I'll look into that. And
You're going to
sure,
dilute a little... You're not going to do anything to burn your skin. Well, maybe you do a little bit. Maybe it's worth a little, like, superficial burns.
I like how that's your plan.
Dr. Beckett, everybody.
You do, like, a light dermabrasion peel.
Vicky, what are your thoughts on Beckett's remedy here? You want this thing over with? We'll wrap it up.
Johnny Smooth Dick.
Better wrap it up.
Yeah, you're right. You better wrap it up.
You know what? What would you call it? Spotted. What did you say last?
Spotted dick. I think.
Oh, spotted dick.
Any of the spotted STDs is what he said last week.
Does anybody have anything they want to plug going into the weekend?
Clorox.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. Please continue to email the Weird Whatever podcast, and also please tell a friend. We want to thank you. The last podcast, our numbers were through the roof, so thank you guys for listening.
Can I real quick? Sorry to mess up the flow. I found online. So one of you guys were watching. Do you know like Weird and Whatever podcast shirts are online for people to buy?
Didn't even know it.
I'm looking right now. It's on a website called TeePublic, T-E-E Public. If you type in Weird and Whatever podcast, it was the shirt that you were wearing.
No, that he was wearing.
That you were wearing.
Well, we're not getting any money on it.
Well, maybe don't buy it until we get.
No,
we get involved.
I don't. Yeah, I don't.
Where'd you get the shirt?
I think someone sent it to me.
Okay.
But yeah, no one should be selling Weird and Whatever. Like they shouldn't be selling Weird and Whatever podcast
Right.
shirts.
And they are. They're selling that. I actually came across that several weeks ago, and I meant to say something to you, but I didn't know if you knew that they were doing it because.
So this is kind of like hate mail. Like it kind of sucks to have hate mail, but you told me. Remember we did the Bachelor podcast. We did that bit where you were like, "I'm gonna read some live on air hate mail."
Insults, yeah.
And you told me like when you get hate mail, that's how you know you've made it.
Yeah.
You've started to be successful, relatively speaking. So maybe like this is, maybe
Oh,
it's
yeah,
a bad
I mean,
thing.
I'm
Maybe
sure-
it's a good thing. Like someone's actually making a T-shirt now.
I guarantee it's probably just a misunderstanding. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's really not. We'll look into it. they could have said something to me in passing, and I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Who
It's got
knows?
Bigfoot on it.
We shouldn't be selling Weird and Whatever podcast shirts yet, but we'll look into it.
Okay.
I don't think that they're
All right,
selling.
sorry to give you all that.
I don't think that we're all like missing out on thousands of dollars. I think we're cool. We'll get it settled.
All right, cool.
Thank you guys for listening. We love you all, and
Bigfoot is real.